Hey, everybody. Before we get going with the show, Crystal and I had an excellent time speaking with Naresh. In fact, we recorded about an hour, a little over an hour long actual show. And then we proceeded to talk to Naresh for another hour and 20 minutes post show. I do have all that recorded, and Naresh has graciously granted permission for us to use that recording for an episode as well. So what you're going to hear today is part one. It's going to be in our typical show format. Please be patient with about the first 8 minutes of audio. We had a bad cell connection with Naresh, but after about minute 8, it clears up and is fine until the end of the show. So stay tuned. Part 2 of this interview will be coming out in a few weeks, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome to the Heartland Running Podcast. Join Crystal, Andy, and Steven as they explore all things running related in the Heartland and beyond.
All right, everybody. Welcome to this very special edition of the Heartland Running Podcast. I am Steven.
And I'm Crystal.
And like Club Med, we are the antidote for civilization.
Ooh, nice.
Not as good as yours the other day, Crystal, but I'm trying. I'm going to have to climb back out of that hole. Well, I called this a special edition because our guest host tonight, he and I have been emailing back and forth for about 6 months, trying to find some time to do this because he just, he likes to go out and do crazy things once in a while. So we are very, very honored to have Mr. Naresh Kumar on tonight. How are we doing, Naresh?
Oh, Steven, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Typical day, work, beat the kids, eat dinner, that type of stuff. Now a little about Naresh. We could probably spend at least an hour talking about all his running and adventure accomplishments. But a couple highlights I put down. Maybe Crystal has a few others. You won the Vol State in 2011. Is that correct?
That's right.
And for people that don't know what that is, that's basically a run across Tennessee, the long way, correct? Starts in Missouri, I think, and you cross the Mississippi.
In Missouri, you run to Georgia, across the state of Tennessee, carrying everything on your back.
Yeah, and that's 500 kilometers?
Yes, 314 miles, 500 kilometers.
Now I was reading about that race, and I like the way they word it. You have two ways to run the race. You can run it crude, or you can run it screwed.
That's right.
And you ran it screwed, correct?
Yeah, I was screwed, and I was screwed big time because that was just my 1.5 year into running, and someone who just started running marathons 1.5 before. I don't know what I was thinking to run in the screwed category of Wall State, but I still don't know how I won the race that year in the unsupported category. But yeah, I was big time screwed that race for sure.
And not only that, he has, just too many ultras and marathons to list. You have walked the length of New Zealand. I believe that was 3,000 kilometers.
It was 3,004 kilometers, walk and run, traversing Samoa. It's almost like the Pacific West of America. It's like the Pacific West of New Zealand, traverses from the top to bottom.
Wow.
Both islands of New Zealand.
And then you just finished your latest little adventure where you went on a leisure little bike ride as well.
That's right. Very special bike ride. The bike ride with a lot of people picked up along the way, again, traversing the length of New Zealand. That was about 2,100 miles.
That's fascinating. And we'll get into that because I definitely want to hear some of the stories from the road on that. And just a little more background. You were born and raised in India, correct?
That's right. Born and raised in a suburb in South India called Madras. Okay. Born in a poor family, and life was a big challenge.
So this obviously, we are the Heartland and Beyond podcast, so we are definitely going beyond tonight, but we want to make you an honorary hillbilly. We had to have a ceremony for Crystal because she's Canadian, nice they are. And So we'll have to send you some Ozark moonshine. I know you've had that stuff they call moonshine out in Tennessee and Kentucky, but that's not the real stuff. So we'll have to get you a jug or two sent.
Funny that you mentioned, because I lived in Nashville for 3 years and made contact with a lot of people. And at one point I was having this southern accent, acting like a southerner. And my friend said, the only thing pending is you have to fix some antlers to your car. You're going to become like a perfect. Essentially, after you drink moonshine, you kill and eat rattlesnakes. The only thing is antlers to your car. That's all you need now to become like official hillbilly.
Well, we bestow an Ozark Hillbilly honorarium on you, because there's a difference between Ozark Hillbillies and like West Virginia Hillbillies. So
I'm honored to.
Now I'm learning stuff tonight.
So all those advanced degrees and stuff you have, that means nothing.
I will send you my address. Can't wait.
So let's get in. I had read that when you won a scholarship to come to school here in the States, and when you got here, you had no idea what this crazy little ultra running and ultra adventure sport was, did you?
Yeah, just one correction. I never went to school in the U.S. I got a scholarship in India to go to a school in India.
Oh, okay.
So just did my engineering degree there. And life was a huge challenge. So every single student in India, his one big dream is to come to the promised land. It's America. Come here, explore, work hard, and, make some life. So that brought me here back in 2009. And yeah, oh boy, I had no clue what I was getting into when I landed in the US, let alone running scene. I had to Google how to order a coffee in Starbucks and how to order a sandwich in Subway. Because as a boy who grew up eating rice and curry and drank only cow milk with lots of coffee in it, this was a complicated stuff coming to US and ordering even the simplest thing that everyone does here normally.
Well, let's get right into it and talk about your latest adventure. You rode a tandem bike across New Zealand. It was a bike named Kindness. What was the inspiration for that?
Inspiration was my travel in Nepal. Before running the land in New Zealand on the Te Araroa Trail, I was training by running the Annapurna Circuit and the Annapurna Sanctuary in Nepal. After finishing my training run, I was going to fly back to India and then to New Zealand. And we hear about sex trafficking, human trafficking. We read about those stories until you witness what's going on. I was standing there and someone assumed that I was a tourist looking at my National Geographic bandana. He came and approached and started soliciting this thing so cool. And casually he said, "How many girls do you want for how many nights? Let me know your hotel or hostel you are. Friend or group, and we have girls from anywhere from 13-year-old to 16-year-old. We will bring them. You guys have fun, and let us know when you're done, and we pay them back." So it just all came at once. It just sounds like a pizza delivery. You just call what you want, and they drop, and they pick them up as well. And at that time, you were filled with this anger, and you want to do something about it, but punching him on the face is not a problem, because when you look down the street, hundreds of them soliciting the same thing to thousands of tourists. And the sad state is there are so many consumers, because of which there is a huge supply. So outrage was my biggest inspiration, and I wanted about it, because all it takes for evil to triumph is good people to not do anything. So I just had to do something about it. So my run across New Zealand was with that purpose. Ran the length of New Zealand, completed Te Araroa in sandals in winter in under 3 months. And the next adventure was to involve people, because when you do something like this, like a run, it's a personal adventure and people know what your cause is and they want you to help. But the one thing that I learned was giving money was the easiest thing. Opening someone's wallet was the easiest thing. Opening someone's heart on the other end was one of the toughest part. And I wanted to do that Freedom Seat adventure. I wanted to ride a bike in kindness with other people to show what kindness is to these people who don't know what kindness is, especially children and women, the most vulnerable in these countries, who are trafficked and extremely horrible things happen to them. So I just wanted people to step out of.
Okay, so we were talking about a bike named Kindness. We had to take a little break there and for some technical difficulties. So you decided to do this ride to bring awareness for human sex trafficking, correct?
That is correct. So instead of just you doing some big adventure, I just wanted people to join hands with bring them out of their comfort zone, because giving money was the easiest part, but opening someone's heart was the toughest part. So, but Freedom Seat, it kind of brought so many people, and I would tell them a story that made them care, and the expedition was definitely a huge success.
Boy, I'm not sure where we want to go. Where do you want to go with this, Crystal? I'd like to get into some stories.
Yeah, I'm curious. How would you meet up with these people? Was it something that was arranged ahead of time, or?
It was kind of a mix of both. The media got out, and I would pick up people who knew about this expedition already. But the whole thing was about meeting random people and making an impact. So what I did was I had a GPS attached to the bike, and there was a link on my website that said, "Where is kindness?" So anyone who hears about this through media or news or word of mouth, they go to my website, click on the link, "Where is kindness?" which brings a real-time Google map showing exactly my location, and people would just stand on the side of the road, act like a hitchhikers, and they would just jump on the bike and they would go on a ride. And there would be some times where I would just find random people along the side of the road, and I would just go and introduce myself and request them to see if they would like to go on an adventure with me. And not even one person, every single person jumped on the bike. No one turned down the invitation.
Wow. So how long would they ride with you on average?
The youngest was 3-year-old and the oldest was 72-year-old. And they rode anywhere from a kilometer to up to 72 kilometers.
Wow.
So the 72 kilometers was the longest someone has ever ridden kindness with me.
Would you mind sharing a couple of your favorite stories from the ride?
Oh, absolutely, Steve. In North Island, one of the toughest night, it was raining the entire night, and got up, broke my tent, and started riding my bike. When I saw someone making coffee on the side of the road, I just pulled over, wanting to have that one good cup of coffee and get going. But all it takes is a little bit of curiosity to know about every single person out there. And one question that I'll always ask everyone, 2 questions, is like, who are you? What's your story? And while this amazing lady, she was making my coffee, and I was telling her why I'm doing what I'm doing. And while waiting for my coffee, she was making everyone else's coffee, and she finally brings my coffee, hands it over in a nice souvenir mug, and she gives me $50. And I'm like, I think you're mistaken. I don't think I paid for my coffee yet. And she's like, no, I was telling other people who were waiting in line about your story, and they all pitched in. And this is for your charity, and that's what took long to make your coffee. It was extremely humbling. She didn't have to do, but still she did that. And when I asked her, who are you? What's your story? It's just amazing. She was going to give her kidney away to a random stranger a month from when I met her.
Oh, wow.
I was like, just to a random stranger. She's like, I'm 50 years old and I always wanted to do something with my life. And this is the best gift I wanted to give. And it's a totally random stranger. And I said, like, why random stranger? Why don't you want to know about that person and you don't want that person to know about you? And she was like, I don't want that person to feel indebted for the rest of his or her life that she got a kidney from someone. So I got 2. What am I going to do with 2? So I'm just going to give it away with the other one to someone. We read in the Bible, let not your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And here's the person living that life. So when I was riding my bike away from there, I was just thinking there were at least 10 people standing in line buying coffee from this wonderful lady. How many of them really know the lady that I got to know in that few minutes? And she also was a huge support. The biggest lesson that I learned was everyone has lived a story worth telling out there, Stephen. These are the people, we don't see them on TEDx stage. They are not the ones writing books. They're just doing this amazing stuff, and they're just going on with their life like every other day. And you won't believe one other story. I mean, I'm writing a book about this. I spent 52 days on the road, and 35 days of it was bicycling. The rest of the day I would speak at a lot of schools and libraries and organizations. During the entire 52 days, I didn't even spend $1 for accommodation. I spent most of my nights in random people's house that I would meet along the way, and they would extend an invitation, take me home. And when you go to bed that night after good food and an awesome shower, you just go to sleep wondering, how did you end up in that place? And what did you do to deserve all this kindness from all these amazing people? So it was an extremely, exceptionally humbling journey with all the other people.
Oh, I can imagine. I know you have one of your stories that's a favorite of mine is I think when you were doing your run walk across New Zealand that you thought you're going to have to sleep in a bathroom and an hour later you're in a hot tub.
Yeah, that's like, I always tell people about how BMW goes from 0 to 100 miles in 6 seconds. That's my story about how I was about to end up in a public toilet. And 20 minutes later, I was in a jacuzzi sitting with 2 ice cold IPAs watching an amazing sunset. That was while running the length of New Zealand. Extremely tough day, cold, hungry, starving, sitting in front of a public toilet. And that was my desperation. I just wanted the sun to go down so that I can just go and sit inside the toilet and sleep. And out of nowhere, this wonderful man comes and asks me what I'm doing. Then I told him I'm running the length of New Zealand in sandals. And then he asked me why. And I told him why. And the reason behind the fundraising and everything. And the next minute, I was sitting in a jacuzzi with 2 ice cold IPA and an awesome dinner. And the next day, they packed up my bag with all kinds of lunch and dinner and food and a big donation for the cause. Yeah, it's just an extremely humbling journey when you go human powered from one place to the next. And the kind of people that you meet makes you a better person.
Yeah, I can see how those adventures would be almost spiritual. I mean, it seems like it would break you down to nothing and really make you examine who you are and, what you've done with your life and where you want to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like they're just inspired to do and live, something to try and something bigger than yourself.
I'm curious, how did you end up in New Zealand?
You'll laugh if I tell you that story.
I know.
Why New Zealand? So just after I got a scholarship to study for engineering, up until that point, when you're growing up in India, there's no chance of reading any fiction book. Anything you read has to improve your grade. It's always textbook. And getting into college, I had a chance to watch one of my first Hollywood movies, I would say. I ended up watching Lord of the Rings when I was sitting in one of the poorest conditions in India when you were raised in such conditions. It was like a childlike dream. One, taken over by J.R.R. Tolkien's world. And the other thing was like, where is this place? If this place exists, that's where my home is going to be. I want to go and live in that country. And eventually doing more research, I found that Middle Earth was New Zealand. And a small dream was born that day that, I'm going to make that country as my home. And just before I turned 30, applied for a residency visa to New Zealand. And because of my qualifications and work experience, got my visa. And now I'm a proud resident of New Zealand now.
Do you still live in New Zealand full time?
Yes, New Zealand is home. I'm a permanent resident. So full time is kind of, I'm like maybe 3 or 4 months, maybe 5 months in a year I'll be there. And the rest of the 6 months, I don't even know where I will be. Just travel for adventures.
Now, before we get too far away from your bike ride, what can people do to help the cause?
Wherever they are, I would definitely encourage for the audience to read more about it. There are lots of resources out online, and partner up with a local organization or church or anyone who's doing any kind of work in the field of trafficking. And they can also contact me. My website has all the details, freedomseat.org.nz. And most of these organizations, the biggest requirement for them is funds, because it's just not about going and rescuing them like a Hollywood movie, what it depicts. But there's a lot of effort that goes into evidence, detective work, rescuing them. But the biggest work comes with rehabilitation, when you have to restore their faith in humanity, restore their own dignity, and then most of these kids contract STDs, and most of them have PTSD problems, and most of them are kept under a drug influence for a very long time. So to get them out of that addiction. So all of it takes a lot of effort. So the biggest thing would be to read more about it and help out any organization in any way possible. Funds would be the biggest thing. The next step would be to raise awareness. And if you have time, even partner up one of these organizations and go out there and do anything on the field.
Okay, good. We will have links to your website and some organizations in the show notes. I didn't mean to backtrack. Didn't mean to backtrack so much, but I wanted to make sure we got that message out before we got down another rabbit hole.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Now, maybe a little lighter side here. I believe you called this man your American Papa. How did you end up meeting Laz and Steve Durbin?
Lazarus Lake, that was just while I was getting into the ultra running field. All my friends in the South, they were just talking about this character who puts on all these crazy races to punish you. You know, most of the people would just call him F's and B's every time you bring up his name, like how much he makes you struggle and suffer. But at the same time, along with that hatred came this amazing love for this person, people wanting to go and run this race. So hearing about this mythical character called Lazarus Lake, I first met him when I ran Strolling Gym. That was my first ultra marathon of Lazarus Lake in Tennessee. And I met him on the side of the road. He was just smoking his cigarette, laughing at people, making them suffer more. And that's my first time meeting Gary. And Steve Durbin that was my third ultra marathon. And I signed up for Land Between the Lakes 50 miler. I think that was dead fucking last, or maybe one before the DSL person. That's when I met Steve Durbin, and one gem of a person, but I just hated him so much for putting a race and course like that. But all these friendships, forged through the mountains and winds and river crossings and distances. Also running, more than running, it's the family that you find along the way. Now you call it. Gary Cantrell is like my American Papa, and Steve Durbin is like my Kentucky uncle. So you have running mom, dad, uncle, aunties, even nephews and nieces all over the world now. And I ended up doing every one of Lazarus Lake race, starting from Strolling Gym, Backyard Ultra, Wall State, and even had an attempt at Barkley in 2012.
Which I was curious about that because I saw you completed one full loop. Is that correct?
Completed one loop of Barkley. Yeah.
And how was that?
I wouldn't wish Barkley, on my worst enemy.
So you're not. So you're not going back to that one?
Again, I want to go back and at least do a fun run finish, but it's definitely hands down one of the toughest races.
Okay, for those listening, this is coming from a man that ran and walked across New Zealand, rode a bike across New Zealand, and you ask him about Barkley, and he goes, ugh.
I mean, a lot of people watch the movies, and it's inspiring, and they want to do it, and they come and ask you for ways to get in, because, no one knows how to get into Barkley. And when they come and ask you, you're just filled with pity and sympathy for that person. And you're like, dude, do something good with your life. Go kiss your wife, be with your kids, stay with them. Don't go do Barkley. It's bad. It's bad thing out there. Literally, there is bad thing out there. Don't go and do it. And for people who still insist, I never reveal the secret. I'm like, sorry, if I have to tell that secret to you, then I have to kill you. If you don't know how to enter Barkley, then you don't need to be there. I always quote Fight Club. That's the first rule of Fight Club, man. Don't talk about Fight Club. But it's an amazing race. I mean, Gary definitely like he always says, a challenge can be a real challenge unless there's a possibility of failure. That's one thing that I love about my American Papa. He always has a challenge for you. That's out there so that the person can go out there and try and do something that they can't do. That's what brings people from all over the world to Barkley Marathon. That failure rate being so high, and people get a chance to really push their limit to see what they can't do, and at least to give an attempt to see how far they can go, knowing that the failure rate is so high. Such an amazing race.
I have no desire to do the full Barkley. I might try the Fall Classic next year, maybe.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I heard Fall Classic. 50K, and so many people DNF last year, even for a 50K race.
Well, it's it's an air quote 50K though, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I know Steven would have talked you into this. I think you must have tortured Steven with something. That's why he's trying to get you into doing this thing. He hates you, man.
Yeah, he must, because he's like, you got it. It's a beautiful run. It's on a beautiful course, you know.
And you're falling for it all.
Believe him.
Yeah, Crystal and myself and our other co-host Andy that couldn't be here tonight, we're going to be doing ruts next month. So that will be my first official Durbin race.
Ah, you're gonna love running under the stars. It's one of an amazing race. Would you be doing the one in Paducah, Kentucky?
Yes, Paducah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I had my best time there. I think about 55.5 miles in 10 hours. That was back in like 2013. Awesome race. You're going to love it.
Well, we're taking a camper out and a smoker and
yeah.
We're going to have some food going and hope it'll be a good time.
Yeah, it's a great party. Pitch a tent right in the middle. You can stop whenever you want and keep going.
Oh.
No chance you're going to make it out there, huh?
You never know. Oh. Maybe. I'm just thinking, because just going on a bit of a tour. I don't know if the listeners know, but I run in sandals mainly. I run pretty much all my races minimal in the bedrock sandals. Some technical races, I do it in shoes. And I'm here for an adventure with them across America. So hopefully if that gets done, you never know.
Well, why you just mentioned, I'm gonna skip here since you just mentioned that. Just the other week, we had a gentleman by the name of Chris Miller on the show. He is going to be running across America to raise awareness and funds for substance abuse and rehabilitation. This will be his first, what do you want to call it, Crystal? Long expedition journey?
Yes.
He's run marathons before. So I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to him for such a journey? Because I think he's going to take 5 months to do it. So that's about 20 miles a day.
Wow. My one advice is you don't know what you don't know. You can only plan so much, but there are so many uncertainties out there when you go on an adventure like this. So don't be hard on yourself, because things are definitely not going to go as per the plan that he may have laid out before, or any expedition for that matter. Embrace any kind of uncertainties and changes and adversities that get thrown at you, keeping a very positive outlook and just knowing that this too shall pass. It's not going to be there forever, and work out on plan B, plan C, plan D, even if that has to be all the way to plan Z. Just gotta keep bouncing back no matter what happens. That's the only thing that's going to keep going. But for any expedition, especially for me, it's all about knowing why you're doing what you're doing, Steve. As long as your why is big, your what, when, where, how, everything else will follow. The why has to be very big. And Chris seems to be knowing why he's doing that for substance abuse. It's such a big cause. So as long as his why is really big, I'm sure his what, when, where, how, and all the adversities that he's going to face, I'm sure he'll overcome this and succeed.
That's some great advice. In fact, when we were doing the interview, I'd even mentioned to him, I said, I know someone that's done, these long journeys. I'll see if I can get some advice out of him for you. Yeah.
I mean, when I was doing Tiararoa with about 200 miles to go, I was running along this ridgeline when I got caught in a very nasty gust, almost got thrown away, airborne for 3 seconds, and landed pretty hard on my feet. And the swelling was pretty big. And I could almost smell the finish line after running and hiking all that distance. then you're looking at your feet, it's swollen. But then, like the favorite ultra running quote that they say, if it ain't broken, keep going. So it isn't broken. Nothing is poking out of my feet. So as long as I can still walk, I'm just going to keep going. I could have just walked away from it, taken care of it, and then go back. But what I've seen and the reason why I was doing that, why I'm fighting for, who am I fighting for at the end of the day? My why was pretty big. That I really pushed my limits through that swollen foot for about 200 miles. Finished my journey 10 days after finishing it at Bluff. Went to the doctor because the swelling never went down. And then the x-ray was pretty shocking. I had a clean fracture of the second metatarsal on my left foot.
Ooh.
And the doctor was surprised. She's like, how did you even manage not just walk, but, walk, run on these trails in New Zealand with this foot? I'm like, I think my why was pretty big, and it is still big because the pain that I was going through is nothing compared to what these young children and women are going through for all their life. And I looked at my fundraising, and we collectively raised about $10,000. So my why was pretty big, and that fueled me to keep me going. So your why has to be always big. Figure out your why, and everything else will follow. You will figure out a way to make it happen.
That's a great bit of advice there, and I really take that to heart because I know for me, as I'm getting older, my kids are about to leave the house, and I find myself asking, what am I going to do? I haven't really done anything that makes a difference in anybody's life outside of my immediate family. So
right,
it's definitely looking for that. Like yourself, that great thing to try to help others. Haven't figured out what that is yet.
Absolutely. And we as endurance runners, Steve, we can do so much out there because the real world doesn't know all this crazy stuff, and that acts as a lure to come to you. It attracts people to you. When I do all my adventure travel across the world, I go on human-powered journeys, either bicycling or running, and people just come to you. And that's when I realized, that we could really use our endurance to do something in the world that's bigger than ourselves.
You seem to have this really beautiful juxtaposing personality, kind of this yin and yang, where the one side of you is, very driven, coming up, from a poor area in India, fighting to get to the top, to get one of those scholarships, making it here to the U.S. And I know what engineers are like. I used to actually work for a semiconductor company and know the type of drive that it takes. But then on the flip side, you also have this beautiful free-spirited kind of adventurer side of you. Is it do you have to work on one side or the other, or are both just kind of naturally part of you?
All my engineering, academic, everything, it was just survival, Crystal. There was no choice. The city that I grew up has 10 million people. And there is no partiality, no special attention given. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. The ground is fair. Either you can accept your defeat and walk away, or you just roll up your sleeves and put on the best fight that you can. And you just don't, if the other guy is competing for the same scholarship as you may not get it, but you want the other guy to suffer to get his scholarship. And, in that kind of condition, survival becomes everything. And I had no other choice but to fight so hard. And becoming an engineer, coming to US, it really helped in fast tracking, in helping my family to get away from that poor conditions. Now they are in a much, much better place. But also there's this amazing desire to live life, to see what's out there, to go out and explore what you don't know. And you want to see what you could be more better at. So it was a combination of both that got me here. I'm not an advocate of saying, guys, quit your job, quit the rat race, go out and do this. I'm not saying that because at the end of the day, I'm doing what I'm doing because of all that hard work. But my one piece of recommendation for people is, do whatever makes you happy, because happiness is very cheap, and it's all about bringing your expectations down and just going out and doing what you really love to do and doing what makes you happy. At that point of time, I worked till even now I do computer work every now and then. I worked in the Silicon Valley in one of the toughest working conditions, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge. But at the same time, I know exactly what I wanted. I wanted this lifestyle. So I used that hard work and all that time to build my profile and portfolio and work pretty hard. And when it was time, that was even more a bigger challenge, I would say, to kick the bucket and walk away. And I was telling Steven the other day, I wrote an email to resign from my job, but you won't believe, Crystal, it took me 2 weeks to push that send button because
Wow.
everything that people would call as common sense, everything that people consider as success. I mean, half the people in India want to be where I am, and here I am leaving the job and just walking away into the unknown. And when people ask you, like, so what are your plans? What are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. All I have is $200 in my pocket and a backpack with a tent and sleeping bag and stuff. And I'm just going to live this dream that I always dreamed about, going to New Zealand. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to figure it out. So talk about taking that leap of faith and walking into that uncertainty. So that was a huge decision, but I wasn't really scared because I know what I wanted and I was going after my dream. So I always tell people, whatever is your push button, send button, always push it, because you don't want to live with regret thinking what life would have been if only you had taken that one single step. And here I am, 3 years after 14 countries in 4 continents, raised about $250,000 for various charities in the last 3 years, still living out there.
Wow, well done, sir. I completely agree with you. The only problem I see is I think a lot of people don't know what would make them happy. They think they know, they think it's a fast car, big house, something material, and that's usually not the case.
Absolutely. And most of the times they just go the path that's directed by someone else.
Exactly.
I mean, even in this case, my society, I mean, in India, trust me, I'm considered as the biggest loser for living a life like this. It's humbling when people think it's very inspiring. You get on stages to talk about your life and inspire people, whereas there are so many people who think I'm an idiot, I'm stupid for living life like this. Because for them, it's different. For them, life is all about working till 50, 55, then you retire, and then you just die one day. And your success is all measured about how many houses you have, how many cars you got, how many kids you have, what kind of position you have in the company. That's how the society judges people and their success. And for people who are doing that, and that's what gives them happiness, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you're doing that and if it gives you that happiness. But most of the time it's dictated by the society and people just end up following that. And that's where all that unhappiness creeps in, that one day they look back at their life and they think, what just happened? What happened to the last 40 years of my life?
So did running bring that out for you? Because I know it did for me. I'll admit I didn't know what would make me happy until I was 42, 43 years old. I
Wow.
thought it was work, 80 hours a week and buy this and buy that and have a big bank account. And I was miserable. Granted, you have to work,
Right.
you have to pay the bills, you have to feed the kids, you have to do that stuff. But I was wondering if it had the same effect for you once you started getting into it.
Running definitely helped a lot. I mean, just about my running, I was never a runner. I had never run a mile. And then I decided to run a marathon after I saw Spirit of the Marathon movie in 2009. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Oh, yeah, good movie.
It's called, that was like a huge motivation when I saw the preview, people going on about running this 26.2 miles. And I was like, how bad it can be. And then with no training, went and ran a marathon. Took like 6 hours and I couldn't walk for 2 weeks after that. But I was like, okay, this is what running is all about. But then also life situations kind of pushed me. Shit kind of hit the fan. Met with a very nasty accident and also going through a very bad breakup. So I started running to clear my mind of the noise in my head and to find answers, but sometimes to questions that I didn't even know. Then I started running to prove my strength, push my limits to see what I can or can't do. It definitely gave me a very positive outlook, but mainly a confidence that I can pretty much do anything. And along the way, I met someone. when you come from India, you don't talk about death. You never talk about death. And when I was running, there's this awesome runner who's not with us anymore. Angela Ivory, a sweetheart. So many runners in the South will connect to. She and I, we were great friends, and she wouldn't see me often running. And she was like my eye opener, because I was working my way off, like working pretty hard, show up for ultramarathons maybe once or twice a month. Then I said, like, when she asked me why I'm not running often, then I said, no, work is pretty hard. I need to work long hours and make some money, and she's like, so what's your plan? Keep doing what I'm doing, maybe until 40, 45 and see what happens after that. And then she said, Naresh, wake up. What if there is no 45? What if you don't live up to 45? Today, man, that's what it's all about. Make it count. Seize the day. And it was like a big awakening for me. I knew at that time, I didn't know why she said what she said, but later on, once we became good friends, I knew that she was having cancer and she was counting her days and how she was living her life every day to the fullest. And then it became like a big priority reshift. Until that point, it was all about becoming an executive of a big software company, have some fat paychecks and build that bank account. Then it was all about setting your expectations right. Am I happy? Do I enough to sustain this lifestyle? So definitely running and people in the running community helped me sculpture that priorities. And thank God that it happened. I am who I am today because of the ultra running scene.
Crystal, did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I very much so. I think it's one of those things that it's as I'm gotten to my 40s that I'm finally kind of realizing what really is important and what truly does make me happy. And, I've been able to make some shifts. And of course, now I feel like I just have a whole lot more I need to do. But I'm curious too, Naresh, your family back home, because the cultures are so different, were they supportive of you going out and kind of, leaving the big successful jobs behind and going out and chasing your dreams and these adventures?
Yes and no. Definitely they are proud about what I'm doing when they end up reading my stories in newspapers and articles online. But are they really happy and supportive? I would say no. Because as an Indian parent who grew up in extreme poverty and having never traveled, they still have the same expectations that the society has on me. So whatever I do, at the end of the day, it will always end with but. But you can be doing what you're doing while working. But you can be doing what you're doing after getting married and have kids. Why don't you live a life like everyone else living here? Why don't you do what you're doing after you're 45 and 50 once you establish yourself? So there's always these what ifs and buts that follows. And I'm sure they are very happy and proud and supportive of all my adventures. But I don't really get 100% approval. But at the end of the day, we just agree to disagree and keep going our way because it's just one life and I want to live it to the fullest. And at the end of the day, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not hurting myself. And I'm definitely very happy. I try my best to keep them happy, but you can only try so much. So we just choose to agree to disagree and keep going our way.
Well, now you can call home and say, Mom, Dad, I made it. I made it on the Heartland Running Podcast.
You know what? The next question will be, how much money do you make from this podcast? Even Freedom Seat, I said, Dad, you know what? 35 days, rode 2,100 miles, made over $50,000. They're like, great work. So what's in it for you? I did 100 mile, Dad. I did this Wall State and I won the race. Great job. What's the prize money? How much did you make off that? I was like, okay. In fact, I paid and I spent a lot of money to run that 100 miler. And then they are like, what a loser. Why would you pay money and suffer and you don't even get anything back? So, yeah, that's your Indian culture there, Steven. So how much money are you giving me now? Should I make that call?
You can make the call. Naresh, I'm going to give you 100% of what I make off the podcast.
You're a very generous man. I will.
I'll kick in my portion too.
Crystal's going to kick in her portion.
Guys, you're too generous. I think I'll have to open a new bank account to save all this money now.
And it's not just your parents. Even I get the, why would you pay money to go out and do that stuff?
Yeah.
And
that's
you know,
true.
Part of it too is I got to thinking when I'm old or after I'm gone and my kids have kids or grandkids and hopefully they ask about me. I don't want the stories to be, well, he went to work and came home and watched TV and then got up and did it again. You know,
Yeah.
I want the stories to be, oh, your great grandfather, that crazy old bastard. You know? That's what I want to be remembered for, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, that's so true. Tomorrow, you know, if anything has to happen, how the world has to remember. Me personally, you know, I just want to live a life that's a story worth telling.
That's the perfect way to
do
say
my
it.
best. Yeah, just a story worth telling. He lived a good life, you know. At least there should be some people who should be like gathering around your, you know, gravestone and just say, yeah, he lived a story worth telling. This is what he did.
There's an old, I don't know if it's a story or a joke or whatever about a guy saying he doesn't want people to go to his funeral and see him all made up and perfect and everything. He wants people to look down and go, whoa. He lived.
But it's all that human connection, you know, be it ultra running or adventure traveling. That's why my Instagram, it says live small, adventure lots. Because at the end of the day, people, that's what they want to do. Just go out there living. But the human interaction, the people that you meet along the way, they change your life totally and completely and make you a better person every day. Doesn't matter Europe or India or America, even running Wall State. I don't know if you heard that story, but I was about to get arrested. I was sitting in Columbia, Tennessee at one point at 12 o'clock in the night, extremely rough day, just massaging my feet. And I ran it in Vibram 5 fingers the entire Wall State that year. Don't even ask me why. And just sitting there, 2 people approached me and they were sitting next to me. And they were definitely shady looking, but I wasn't judging them. I mean, like, who am I to judge them? One guy was super skinny. The other guy was like, you know, a bit heavy with a lot of piercing and tattoos. So we were just sitting there. And as soon as I told them that I'm running the length of Tennessee this race, they asked more questions. And within 2 minutes, this one guy looked at me and said, don't panic. There's going to be a bunch of cop cars that's going to pull over right now. Don't panic. Act cool. I'm like, how do you know? And by the way, why should the cops be pulling over here? As soon as he finished that statement, 5 minutes later, 3 cars pulls over. And the funny part was the floodlight that they have built in this police car is all pointing at me. I was like, okay. And this guy gets out with his microphone, with his announcing system and says, that skinny guy in shorts, please stand up and come towards the car so that we can see your hand. Please raise your hand so that we can see it all the time. Like drop all my backpack, walk towards the car. They take me to the back of the car, put my hands on the bonnet, and I'm just like, guys, I didn't do anything. I'll cooperate, whatever you want me to do. I mean, I'm new to US. I'm just a year in US at that time. And the guy was, you know, asking for my permission to frisk and checking my backpack while the other cops were talking to these guys. And the other cops who were around me, they were asking, so what are you doing? And I told them, I'm running across the state of Tennessee. I started in Missouri and I'm going to Georgia. And immediately all the cops, they ended up laughing so hard. So they thought I was on drugs. They're like, here's a classic example. The boy is running all the way to Georgia. That's another 200 miles from here. Be in a cup test, boy. Let's go. I'm like, you don't believe me? Trust me, I am doing this race. With your permission, I can open my map and show it to you. And for 10 minutes, they are looking at Facebook, all my maps. And they just looked at me and like, boy, he is telling the truth. He is running the race. So they let me go. And they said, be careful because the other 2 guys just got out of prison on a parole for drug dealing. And the neighbors called on us because they saw you sitting here with these two guys, and we thought it's a drug deal going on. I'm like, thank you for your help. Those guys were very nice to me. There was nothing wrong. And I'm just going to keep going. And one of the cops were really caring. He said, get in the car. I'm going to give you a ride 1 mile out of town, and then you can keep going. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't accept your ride because that's part of the race rule. Unless you have an arrest warrant, I cannot set my foot inside any kind of motorized vehicle. And he was like, wow, you have the guts to ask me for an arrest warrant when I'm trying to help you. I'm like, sorry, officer, but I cannot. You won't believe, Stephen. I ran 2 miles from there with police escort until I got out of the town. And people were just like, wow, who is this guy running in the middle of the night? And there's a cop car coming through. Like, is he something famous? Should we know about him? So I got to a Shell gas station. The cops leave me alone there. I ate like a big frozen pizza sitting on the side of the road. But one of the cop car comes back. And I look at them and say, what? Is it illegal to eat pizza on the side of the gas station now? And he got her and said, like, no, I'm not here to question you eating pizza. But man, I'm just so curious. Are you really doing this race? I'm like, yep. I just got 200 more miles to go. And what he did was amazing. He asked me to come through the other side of the car, opens up his Panasonic Tough Book, opens up Facebook, and he looks at me and says, dude, can I be your Facebook friend? I want to follow your journey, and I want to be friends with you. I'm like, okay. So he finds me on Facebook, adds me. Then he goes on to send me a message through Facebook saying, you're going to become a celebrity by the time you finish, and you may not remember me. So I'm going to send a message as well. He wrote saying, hey, this is Dennis, the cop who almost arrested you outside Columbia, Tennessee. Please accept my Facebook request. So Dennis and I, to this day, we are awesome friends. You know, he invited me to his New Year's party and Christmas party and everything. So that's ultra running for you, but also that human interaction that you get with people. If people say that it's like a Hollywood movie story when you share stories like this, and the other 14 country stories that I have, it's just extremely humbling when you have these amazing human interactions. People are people wherever you go.
Exactly.
They are just awesome. Media just puts a bad word out there, and that kind of raises the fear. Like, install this alarm, don't talk to strangers, don't give anyone water, shoot them if they set their feet on your property. But that's just only a small amount of people who are just scared. Out there, people just trust you. And even for looking shabby, like how I look, skinny, dark, you know, maybe like 3 or 4 days past the last shower sometimes when I'm running across countries. But people just don't judge you. They invite you as you are, take care of you, want to be a part of your journey, part of your dream, and help you accomplish whatever you set out for. Want to do whatever they part, you know, to be a part of your adventure. It's extremely humbling.
Brother, that is well said. I traveled quite a bit in my youth, early 20s and stuff, and that's something I learned too. People are people. They love their kids, and just want to have a life and be left alone, and that's 99.9% of the people.
Absolutely.
So what's next?
Definitely Freedom Seat, tandem bike, going to the next countries, because it was so engaging. A lot of people are caught up in their life and they couldn't just take the time off. And also people don't have the physical ability to go that distance. But in this case, people can do whatever they can at whatever level. They can do their part. So it was one thing to do in New Zealand. A lot of people got to know about this. A lot of awareness was raised and money was raised. But I want to do this in the country where this atrocity is happening and kind of show the world what's going on from the country where it's going on. But I also want to showcase the lives and stories of the frontline workers, people who have sacrificed their lives to help these people to get their life back. So the volunteers, people who are working with these victims day in, day out. And also take some of the people who have been victims of this sex trafficking and how they have got their life together and how they have become successful in what they are doing right now. So maybe potentially, if everything goes well, God willing, maybe a Freedom Seat ride from Vietnam all the way to Myanmar, through Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos, where most of the sex trafficking happens in the world. and kind of show and tell some of the stories from the open road while riding a tandem bike. So that's an adventure that's been brewing, that's going on. So just gonna wait and see how it's all gonna pan out. But with the success after Freedom Seat, I don't know if you heard, but we had a humble goal of $20,000, but we ended up raising over $50,000, Steven. $50,000 in 35 days.
Wow,
that's wonderful.
That's definitely.
And kindness got sold as well. Kindness was in an auction. The tandem bike, Kindness was in an auction, and you won't believe, Kindness was bought by a suicide prevention retreat program in New Zealand, where they're going to use Kindness as a means of, sending the people who are going through this rehabilitation program and with their counselors on a bike ride so that they can have a good time out there riding a tandem bike together. So Kindness is out there spreading more kindness even as I'm speaking right now.
Oh, that's excellent. And you are putting a book together?
Yes. Collection of stories from the open road. How the most unusual places, how people opened up their homes and treated me, helped me in every way possible. It's going to be stories from the road about all random acts of kindness. So I call it tandem acts of kindness that I was getting while riding a tandem bike. So it's going to be a beautiful celebration of stories from the open road.
Any idea when we can expect to see that?
Maybe in the next 3 to 4 months.
Oh, okay. Sooner than I thought.
Yeah. It's been going for a while, so just a matter of getting more disciplined and sit and write. It's harder than I expected.
You have got to let me know when it's available. I will want to purchase a copy.
Oh, absolutely. You will get a very personal signed copy delivered.
Woohoo! I'll eBay that.
And he will donate all of the money back to the charity.
Donate all back, exactly. Well,
absolutely.
Naresh, I see we're running a little long, and I know you are a busy man with things to do. So we'll start wrapping things up here. If people want to follow you, what are your social accounts?
My website and my Instagram and social media, everything is I am a runner, spelled IAMARUNR.
Okay, and just a note about that for you Instagrammers. Whenever you try putting in his Instagram, for some reason it wants to automatically take that second A out, and you get some other person's Instagram. So make sure you got that second A in there.
I can send you the link to the website if you can have it on the website.
We will have links to everything on the show notes.
Awesome.
That's not a problem at all. Crystal, any more questions?
Oh, I could go all night. But
yeah, I'm the same way. I could just, I mean, if you got a free weeknight or weekend night, sometime I just want to hang out and on Skype and drink some cocktails and shoot the shit, you just let me know, brother. We'll do it anytime.
Oh, absolutely. And Steven, even the quote that you mentioned on my picture when you announced on Instagram, right? It's all about doing it, you know? Mm-hmm. I remember Van Gogh's quote where it says, whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. And boldness has genius power and magic in it. So it's all about that, doing it. It's a lot of people I see out there who have amazing potential to do amazing things, but the only thing that they're not doing is doing. That's the main thing. And it's all about that, like I said, right? It's about pressing that send button. Mm-hmm. So it's all about just going out there and just doing it and figuring out along the way, because not everyone has any answers. It's all about figuring out what you don't know once you're out there. So thanks for mentioning that quote, and extremely humbling. Thank you so much for having me in your show and for letting me share all these stories with you and all our amazing listeners. Thank you so much. Crystal, thank you so much, Steven.
You are welcome, and thank you. You are such an inspiration, I know, to me, and I'm pretty sure Miss Crystal as well.
Oh, that's an understatement.
Naresh, I didn't get anything done at work today because I was sitting at my computer reading your blog articles and different interviews, and I was just like, I got to know more.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. So really appreciate it.
We'll get there. And are you going to be coming through Missouri anytime in the near future?
Absolutely. I may end up extending my trip this year maybe till like August, because I don't want to miss the solar eclipse. So if everything goes well, St. Louis, Missouri, mid-August, I should be there. So
Kansas City is supposed to be the best spot to view the eclipse.
Awesome. You know what about Kansas City? It was the first city I landed in when I flew to America.
Oh, wow. And that's a nice city, too.
Yeah, Cerner is my client. Cerner was my client when I was working. I don't know if you know about Cerner.
No.
It's a healthcare company in Kansas City, CERNER.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cerner and Sprint are one of the two biggest employers in Kansas City, at least at that time. So when I landed in Kansas City in dead winter in the middle of nowhere, I had this Bollywood version of US in my head. And when I landed in Kansas City, I was like...
Hold up. We can't end the show here because I don't know what's the Bollywood version of the US.
So the Bollywood version of US is Golden Gate Bridge, Liberty Statue, beautiful girls walking around everywhere, blue skies and butterflies, everyone holding Starbucks in their hand. It's like the super Bollywood version of, if you just look at any Bollywood version of Bollywood Hindi movies, you'll see this amazing view of America. Then you land in the middle of nowhere. I think the day I landed, it was 28 degrees. Everything was cold. And for a boy who grew up in a tropical region in America, in India, where 70 is cold for us. I didn't know how cold was cold until I got to Kansas City. And that day I thought my manager really appreciated my work and that's why he sent me to US. But as soon as I landed there, that's when I thought he hates me. That's why he wanted to get rid of me. He wanted to get rid of me by sending me to Kansas City of all the places in the US. Oh man, okay. It was winter, but it just changed after a week. I went to New York and Florida and I'm like, my dream still lives. It's still the America that I imagined in the Bollywood movies.
That is funny. Well, you keep me abreast of your location. If you're coming out this way, we'll put together a trail run or something. I know most of the trails in the state, and we have some really, really nice ones.
Yeah, trail runs, some hot chicken wings, and moonshine.
Exactly.
I'm there.
Exactly. And we have many of moonshiners where I live. So.
That's awesome.
My
parents, if they listen to this, they may be asking, what's moonshine? I'm just going to tell them it's a very tasty fruit energy drink.
Very wholesome.
Very wholesome.
Yeah, because even if they remotely find out if it is alcohol, my mom and dad is like, ask him to take that podcast down because no father is going to give their girl in marriage to you if you drink alcohol. Just mention alcohol in the podcast. Save me from this arranged marriage, Steven. You just have to say, Naresh, we are having alcohol ready for you in Kansas City. Come on over.
Well, you see what around here, Naresh, the ladies won't respect you if you can't handle your moonshine.
Yeah, it's the total opposite in India. You drink alcohol, forget about an arranged marriage. You are going to be virgin for the rest of your life.
I'm not the one to ask about marriage. Anyways, brother, we appreciate it so much coming on. We hope you'll come back later and do this again down the road.
Can't wait. Thank you so much for having me over. Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Steven.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, everybody. That was an exciting journey. We'd like to encourage everyone to check out our Facebook group, Heartland Running. Don't worry about the business page. You want the social group. That's where all the fun and excitement happens. As well, you can call our voicemail at area code 417-319-1060. Leave us a message, the good, the bad, the ugly. We don't care. We'll probably play it on the air anyways. In fact, we're looking for that first hate message. We have a little celebration. So don't just call and give us hate message to get the prize. Only if you really hate us. Does that make any sense?
Sure.
Okay.
And if you hate us, why did you wait till the end of this podcast?
Exactly. Well, until next time, everyone, we want to thank you for sticking us in your ears. I'm Steven.
I'm Crystal.
And we'll talk to you later.